Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So that was Joanna that came in, wasn't it? Correct. Hello, how are you? While I think of it, I may have misread your email, but I think it had the Jai Utah concerts, but it didn't have your kirtan.
Oh, okay. I'll resend it.
Well, I'll check it again.
Okay.
But if it was there. Anyway,
Yeah.
What's the date of yours?
Got two things going. The kirtan's the 12th of June, Friday night at 7 o'clock at Soma Yoga in El Cerrito.
Okay.
Right off the freeway. And then on the 28th with my teacher, Sukawat Ali Khan at Ashkenaz.
And where will that be?
Ashkenaz.
Berkeley.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
please.
That'll be more like a dance kind of thing.
That's fine. I'm a fan. She sings marvelously. I'm a real fan. And I don't know if you've met Vinayak. Have you?
Yes, we've been in.
And this is Vinayak's mother, and I've forgotten your name. Forgive me. Uma, that's right. So Deepa's online, and we are in the 4th chapter. And what verse are we on, Mark?
39.
Can't hear you.
39.
39. Deepa, what page for Uma so she can find it? You found it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Will you help us out, please?
Sure.
Deepa.
Yeah. Shraddha vam labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriya jnanam labdhva param shantim chirena adhikachati. The man who is full of faith, who is devoted to it, and who has subdued the senses, obtains this knowledge, and having obtained knowledge, ere long he goes to the supreme peace.
Yes. So last week we ended up dealing with this culmination of this section. We had shloka after shloka after shloka about the various ways of purifying the antakarana, the inner equipment. It was doing asana, doing pranayama, doing bhakti yoga, tirtha, the pilgrimages, all sorts of things, the incoming and outgoing breath, diet, all these things, all of these are ways of obtaining chitta shuddhi, purity of mind. Now, to refresh our memory, first of all, purity of mind is not having goody thoughts as opposed to vicious thoughts. It's having fewer thoughts. So if you've got water that's polluted and you put it in your Brita water filter, what does it do? It removes everything that's not water. And it isn't, okay, which path of yoga is better than this path of yoga? Well, I'm a bhakti yoga. Oh, you're jhana stupid, No, I'm a Raja yoga, All the things we have to understand is it's first, then. There are many paths up the mountain of truth, which are the various branches of yoga. And they're sub-branches. But the temple of truth at the top of the mountain has only one door. And that door is aham. Find out who I is. Now, don't believe me. The authority for this comes from the Vedas. In each one of the 4 Vedas, we have what's called the Mahavakya. I translate it as a great utterance. And the 4 together sum up the totality of what it is we need to know. The first, Prajnanam Brahma. What's that mean?
Consciousness is Brahma.
Brahman is consciousness, yes. So Brahman's not a person with arms and legs. Brahman's not energy moving through. What is Brahman? Consciousness. Well, where is it? Is it up in the sky someplace? No. On top of a mountain? I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Then the Shishya says, oh, okay, Guruji, you're Brahman, I'm a worm. And the Guru says, Tat Tvam Asi. What's that mean? You are that. You are that. Who sees the phone? That's yourself. You don't get another self. All this stuff about Paramatman somewhere up there and Jivatman down here, we miss the point. We can't make the Atman something external. We have to start with our direct experience. Our problem is not ontological. It's not that I have to fix myself, change myself, become something else. No. The problem is, even though I have this eternal direct experience, the great joke of it all is everybody already has it. But I have all these ideas that I superimpose on that. The bija vasana, the seed attachment, is I think I'm the body. From that, I think I'm a person. So the third Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, is also called the Upadesha Mahavakya. Upadesha means to instruct or to teach. So all the various practices are included in that. So first we do all these various practices to attain a sattvic mind, a pure mind, chitta shuddhi. Then we engage in atma vichara. What's atma vichara?
Self-inquiry.
Yes. Now, the root is vich, which means literally to winnow, to separate wheat from chaff, or the husk of the rice from the kernel of the rice. So it involves not just inquiry into the self, but also discrimination between the self and the not self. We went through the simple exercise last week of subject object discrimination. Remember that? Yes? You guys weren't here. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
So I am the subject. Anything of which I can be aware is an object, not self. Can you see the bowl on the table? You're not a bowl. You're the knower of the bowl. So you can go through all the senses. I'm not the sounds I hear. I'm not the fragrances I smell, etc. Challenging thing is when we get to the body itself. When you were a child, you had a little body. Then you went through adolescence and the body changed. Became a young adult, your body changed again. And as we've reached our maturity, the body changes again. But do not you know the changes in the body? Take a deep breath. Feel the breath in the body. Do you not know it as an object of cognition, just like you know the bowl? You are not the body, anatman. Same thing with the prana. If you're doing pranayama and you're moving the energy all around, do you not know the energy? You are not prana. You are the knower of prana. Manas. Sometimes I feel joy, sometimes sorrow, sometimes anger, sometimes happiness, sometimes enthusiasm, sometimes boredom. The mind has all these different states. But whatever feeling I'm having, they are objects of awareness. One feeling doesn't know another feeling. I'm the knower of them both. Now to the realm of buddhi, intellect, the vijnana maya. In your head, do the problem 2 + 2. Remember what you had for lunch. Visualize a strawberry. That place is your buddhi, your intellect. But the thoughts go by like your hand in front of your face, like the sound of the traffic. I am not my thoughts. Now, in the buddhi, there's a function called karta, the agent, the doer. You begin to see that ahankara is different than aham. Ahankara, usually translated as ego, but it comes from the root kri, which means to make or to do. So ahankara are the kinds of thoughts that make the fake self, the chitchaya, the shadow self, chidabhasa, the reflected self, jiva bhavana. What's bhavana?
Sentiment.
Sentiment, or the thought, or the feeling.
Yes.
So it's the feeling that I'm a person. It's not an entity. It's a kind of thinking. Now, it's very powerful. It's closely akin to like hypnotism. It's not just, it isn't so simple as that. But the thing to understand is this jiva bhavana, this ahankriti, this chidabhasa, this chitchaya, is another object of awareness. Well, having negated all that, who am I? There's nothing left. Shankar would say, very clever are you in your capacity to discriminate. Know the self to be that by which everything is known. But itself can never be known as an object. It is like trying to see your eyes. Nobody's ever seen their eyes. It is like trying to taste your tongue. It is like trying to shine a torch, we call them flashlights here, on its batteries. You can't do it. Yet, you are not nothing. You are you. Well, how do I know that I'm me? I do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think myself. Yet I know I am. How do you know it? I don't know. I just know it. That's right. It is swayambhu, self-evident. Self is that by which everything else is known, but itself is swayamjyoti, self-luminous. The self knows itself. And that's a constant and eternal experience. I can go walking around the lake, which I do. And if you get around to that side of the lake, you see people living in bushes. You go up to someone, how are you doing? Oh, it's cold. It was a really tough night. So sorry. By the way, do you exist? What a stupid question. Of course I exist. What's your existence like? Oh, I'm miserable. Do you know your misery? That's a really stupid question. Of course I know my misery. So the person thunders, I am, I know. But on top of that is I am the body. And my body's going through some tough times. I think I'm my feelings. I think I'm my thoughts. So no one lacks the experience of the self. But on top of that, we have the phenomenon of adhyasa. What is adhyasa? She's got good Sanskrit. What's adhyasa? Superimposition. So I superimpose upon the self the qualities of the non-self. From that stems my suffering. So in this verse, when we become rooted in this constant awareness. Now, what is it that becomes aware of the nature of the self? Where does the aha occur? That occurs in the mind. Listen very carefully. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. What is my bondage? It is nothing more than the deeply rooted conviction that I'm bound, that I'm unhappy, that I'm miserable. The root cause of it is the non-apprehension of myself, avidya. And then the immediate identification, I think I'm the body, or the body plus the personality. There's no other bondage. There is no other moksha, no other liberation than the deeply rooted conviction based on direct experience, not just book learning. We don't want to settle for paroksha jnana. We want aparoksha jnana, direct experience. Not that I'm a realized person, come touch my feet. But the last Mahavakya, aham brahmasmi, I am. So, in the space between our thoughts, we have this chitta shuddhi and this radical reversal of the attentive faculty. Who am I? Here's the sound of the little butterfly. In a mind that's very poised and quiet. Nothing there. The sound is being heard. And then the mind goes, oh, I get it. There's nobody there. No person there. Just Chid Akash, the space of pure awareness. And these moments when the mind grasps it, it's called pratyabhinyana, recognition. It's when we have jnanam vijnanam cha. We have some understanding and the direct experience coming together at the same time. Usually translated as understanding and wisdom. For most of us, we need to do this over and over and over again. Because the habit of body identification is incredibly strong. It's incredibly strong. I think the body is me, and I think my feelings and thoughts are real. I go down this tailspin, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, think I'll go eat worms. And those are just kinds of thinking. And what Gita is inviting us to do is step back, get out of the mind. Yoga says the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. Sakshi Bhav, take on the viewpoint, the attitude of the witness. I watch the feelings and the thoughts go by, and I don't get enmeshed with them, involved with them. I just let them be. And what he's saying in this verse is when we're deeply rooted in the self, this is the doorway to peace. Gives us two things. First, it gives us existential freedom. I'm always okay because I'm birthless, changeless, deathless. And I finally now know where happiness is. Happiness is the mind reveling in the self. Nothing wrong with the world, it's just little. So the yogi learns to develop Atmaramana, to revel in the self. This brings supreme peace. And the promise is what moksha is. No longer are compelled into another incarnation. What is the body? The body is an instrument for the garnering of experience and the fulfillment of desires. And what's the fruit of all that? Sometimes a little pleasure, sometimes a little misery, and basically nothing changes till we want to get out of the whole funny farm. What the Master Jesus called being in the world, but not of it. These four Mahavakyas are the totality of the teaching of the Vedanta. Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is consciousness. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Tatvamasi. You are that. And at the moment of realization, Aham Brahmasmi. Not that I know Brahman, but that I am Brahman. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Agyascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti na paro na sukham samshayatmanah. The ignorant, the faithless, the doubting self goes to destruction. There is neither this world nor the other, nor happiness for the doubter.
So, what does the ignorant person do? Both the bhogi and the yogi want happiness. A bhogi is someone who practices bhoga, which is enjoyment. So the bhogi approaches life with this paradigm. Getting what I want will make me happy. Very simple. Getting rid of what I don't like saves me from misery. Now, any of us who either have friends or have worked with addiction, alcoholism, know that reality, the more you get, the more you want. It's like pouring fuel on a fire. It doesn't quench it. And what we as yogis understand, when I engage in the world egoistically, that's what's going to make me happy. I want that. And I do get what I want. It creates a vasana in the mind and compels me to want to repeat that experience. And the same with the negative. I start avoiding things. And when we take that to an extreme, this is what brings us not to being a peaceful person, but someone who's ruled by greed, ruled by ambition, ruled by competition, ruled by revenge, ruled concerned with what other people think. Makes you pretty unhappy. So let's see, how does Yoga Vasishtha phrase it? The enjoyments of the world first taste like nectar and then become poison. But the path of renunciation, of detachment, that's a better way to approach it. The beginning tastes like poison, but then becomes nectar. Now, what's the word in Sanskrit for nectar? Amritam. But it has two meanings. What's the other meaning for amritam? The root is mrit, death. Amritam means immortality. Actually, it's exactly the same word in English. Mortal comes from the same Sanskrit root. Immortal means you don't die. We discover what is beyond birth and death. So that's the way the yogi approaches happiness. She endeavors to reduce the number of desires entertained, whereas the bhogi lives a mode of life to try to satisfy as many desires as possible. What Krishna is saying is it's an illusory path of the bhogi. It doesn't lead us to happiness. It leads us to suffering. It's like the young 25-year-old who's out at the clubs and a friend says, hey, I got some crystal meth. You want to smoke some of this crystal meth? It's incredible. They smoke the crystal meth. Whoa! And in the beginning, oh, I only do it once a month. Then after a while, I only do it on the weekends. Then after a while, I'm addicted. I lose my job, and I lose my home, and I lose my relationships. And I end up on the dung heap of life. If I'm lucky, I don't die, and I end up in a hospital or a rehab. But it started off. Oh, this was so euphoric. I want to do that again. And that's only an extreme case of the human condition. That's all it is. So the yogi doesn't go down that path. They're out with their friends, and someone says, "Hey, I got some of this meth. You want to do a line?" And the yogi goes, "No, I've seen other people go down that path. Not for me. Thank you so much." Now, what do we do if we have a heart full of desire, which most of us do? We begin the practice of what Swamiji used to call sublimation. Now, I think it's a term the psychologists use. Is that right, Joanna?
Yeah, in the olden days, Freud used to use that term. I've never quite understood it, honestly.
Well, the way Swamiji looked at it, it's something like this. So a student is in their dorm room and they've got a paper due Monday that they really want to get a good grade in this class. It's an important class, it's an important paper. And their friends come by. They say, "Oh, we're going out for pizza and beer. Come join us." And of course, the college kid has FOMO, fear of missing out. But they have insight and they say, "No, this paper is more important. I'd really like to go with you, but I'm going to stay in and work on my paper." So they sublimate the lower desire for something higher. Now that's how Swamiji used to use it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as yogis, this is what we do. We pour our hearts into our mumukshutva. What is mumukshutva?
Inquiry.
The burning desire for freedom, for liberation. I want self-realization. I want moksha. So I sublimate these lesser desires. No, what I want is moksha. I don't feel like meditating this morning. Well, do it anyway. Make it a practice, make it a discipline. Discipline comes from the same root word as disciple. I develop a practice. I aspire to a sattvic mind, so I begin to live a sattvic life. This is a word you know, Joanna?
Yeah.
I may change my diet. I may give up the beer and the wine and the marijuana. I may start taking better care of my body. I make sure that I have sadhu sangha, not du sangha. What's sadhu sangha?
Company of good people, saintly people.
Yeah, fellow travelers on the path. What's du sangha?
Of Agyani people.
Yeah, lower companions,
Yeah.
people who get me into trouble.
Yeah.
I think most of us have had a few friends like that. Oh, these are all ways which point us towards moksha. And again, as Yoga Vasishtha says, in the beginning it tastes bitter. We grieve the loss. But in the end, it brings us freedom. Freedom. Now, I have a student, and a few years ago, she decided she was going to start a tantric practice. And her understanding of Tantra at the time was, well, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can dive into the world and then just practice being detached and stuff like that. All right, knock yourself out. A few months later, she calls me up, in tears. She was in such pain, and the boyfriend dumped her, and all that sort of stuff. And she'd been drinking too much, and yada 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 yada. And I said, "You're right. Tantra is a very valid path, but I should warn you, Tantra is the more painful path, because both Tantra and sannyas lead to the same place, Tyagaha. In the path of Tantra, I give up the activity after it's beaten me into reasonableness. When I've been humbled by my extreme indulgence in the world. I want to let it go. Sannyasis, they look at the podium. Have a long life, but that's not for me. So they achieve the same insight, but they do it through insight rather than bitter experience. Very interesting point. Very interesting. All right, next verse.
Yoga samyasta karmanam jnana samchinna samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibadhnanti dhananjaya. He who has renounced actions by yoga, whose doubts are rent asunder by knowledge, who is self-possessed, actions do not bind him, O Dhananjaya.
So what we're talking about here, this is kind of a culmination of the teaching of karma yoga. So what is it that keeps my ignorance in place? It is vasana. We've described this before. The definition of a vasana: it's an impression left in the unconscious as the result of previously performed egoistic actions, meaning it's all involved with I-ness and minus. It's about me and what I have and what I don't have. And when we engage in the world in an activity and then have what's called chintya. In Hindi, it means worry. But in Sanskrit, it means after the fact thinking about stuff. And that leaves an impression, a vasana, in the unconscious. Now, that not only compels me to want to repeat the action, but a vasana has two powers. Who remembers what the two powers are? Which comes first? Nope. Avarana Shakti. Avarana Shakti, Avritti, is veiling power. First, I forget my self-nature. Then, Jiva Bhavana, I think I'm a person. As soon as I think I'm a person, there's some goal. The goal only takes two forms. I either need to fix the world or I need to fix me. Third element, kartavya, struggle. I'll be happy when, it'll be better with, if, more, better, different. And the result of the vasana first is the veiling power, then the projecting power. That's my problem. That's my problem. So hear what Krishna is saying. First, practice the karma yoga, because this reduces the vasana pressure. We act according to our vasanas. He has said earlier in this chapter, everyone's impelled into activity helplessly by the force of nature, prakriti. So act. How? According to our inherent proclivities, but in the spirit of selfless service, the yajna spirit. Serve the society, renouncing our attachment to the fruits of action. Thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. Krishna is the karma paladata, the giver of the fruits of action. The fifth one, the renunciation of the sense of agency. There's no me, Jim, there doing the doing. It's guna and karma. It's qualities of mind and the force of the past. It's all incredibly mechanical. And if we act, he says yoga here, it means karma yoga. Then when the vasana pressure has been reduced to some degree, we can start addressing that avarana shakti, that veiling power. How? Anytime you can thin the mind, listen to the traffic for a moment, and just flip your attention. Who hears? Get the sense of that spaciousness. Chidakash. At those moments, the mind is freed from vasana. How do I know that I have vasana? I think I'm a person. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. Ego says, resolve the struggle of ego. I'll be happy when it'll be better if. Yoga says, get out. Remember who you are.
I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is another way of describing vasana striving?
That's one of the fruits of it, yes.
Okay.
But there's different kinds of striving. There's work, which we do expressively, creatively.
But without
The idea.
attachment to the results.
And without this deeply rooted sense of need. I need this in order to be okay. So, for example, when you sing with your harmonium, I suspect you do it all by yourself at home alone.
Yes.
And do you enjoy it?
Sometimes there's a discipline component.
But the point is, when you're enjoying it, you're working.
Yeah.
There's nobody there giving you a paycheck.
Right.
You're doing it for the love of Krishna, the love of the Lord.
Yes.
You're doing it to purify your inner equipment. I assume that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, to all that. And one other thing I want to make sure I understand is karma yoga. I think in the popular, like when I did my yoga teacher training, they described it almost as like doing service to others. Like you're in a way like this simple, like if you Google karma in the USA, you're gonna come up with you do something good, you get a good result.
Karma
for
just means
yourself.
work. The literal meaning of karma, translation, is work. It has no quality of good or bad.
So do you disagree with that idea that it's this thing of doing good service for others?
There are 5 elements that are covered in chapters 3, 4, and 5, and they're all about karma yoga. So Lord Krishna, our poet, Vyasa, goes deeply in how to make action a benefit for our self-realization. And certainly just doing service is a big part of it. But it goes much deeper. And I've distilled these 5 elements out of chapters 3, 4, and 5. So first of all, act. You don't gain freedom by running away from the world. And a lot of people have that misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I want to be a yogi. I'm going to stay home and make my grandmother support me. That's no. But how am I going to act? Now you look into Buddhism, and they have this wonderful teaching on right livelihood. You know, it should be non-injurious, it should be for the good of others, and stuff like that. What Gita is saying is, well, you have a nature. You know, might as well ride the horse in the direction it's going. But don't do it because it's all about me and my ambition and how much money I'm going to make. True story. I was out with these 2 guys for lunch, and this guy had kind of done a little bit of surface work in Native American spirituality. He was a white guy. And at lunch, all he could talk about is how he was going to market it and make a lot of money from it. I said nothing, none of my business. But we even have that. I'm sure there are yoga teachers. You know, it's all about my ambition, or it's all about having a pretty body, you know. It's not about moksha. You see, so we act according to our inherent latent proclivities, or swadharma, in the yajna spirit. Yajna means sacrifice, but the whole teaching on it, we get most of this in the 3rd chapter. It's about how to do everything, keeping God in the forefront. You don't work for Google, you work for God. Your customers are not just clients. How can I get my money? You serve God. What is I'm doing? Let's say you're building your radar thing for cars. In the end, you're doing it as service to the society to save lives. Not just about me. This is a good idea. I'm going to make a buck to be famous. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what he does. He's an engineer. He's an inventor. So that's the yajna spirit. Swamiji would thunder, serve the society, serve the society. And then the 4th thing, all we get in life is the work. My right is to work alone, never to the fruits. Do your best and let God have the rest. So kirtan, you go to give a kirtan and nobody comes. You just sing for the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Or you go to do kirtan and there's places packed, standing room only. Thank you, God. And you do the same work. That makes sense?
Yes.
And who's doing the doing? Why are you doing kirtan? It isn't because Joanna as a person had that great idea. This is all the force of the past and qualities of your mind. It's stuff that's being built from lifetimes that's moved you in this direction.
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yeah. And I have seen people on the path who take a spiritual endeavor, be it whatever, and turn it into a competitive sport, or I don't know how to describe it, but the energy of perfectionism, the energy of striving,
And
to do that.
competition,
competition.
ambition, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, we all have to work through these things, and they will suffer until they let that go.
Yeah.
I think it should just happen. Whenever we do some karma, it should just happen. It should not, there should be any intention, nothing, no fruits.
Well, and our intention is not outside of God's universe either. I mean, for example, I scheduled a Gita class on Sunday nights. But I let it go. Whoever shows up is who the Lord brings. I just let it happen. So it's both. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But I don't just sit around and wait for people to come and say, "Oh, Jim, do Gita." It isn't loosey-goosey like that. And Swamiji used to say Gita is the man of knowledge downtown. Of course, we would say the person of knowledge downtown today. So it's aimed at people who are working in the world. That's the great contribution of Gita, as opposed to some of the earlier works, which were for Brahmins and people who were going to take sannyas and leave the world and become monks. Women weren't allowed to take sannyas in those days. The world's different. So does that give you a clearer understanding of karma yoga? It's more subtle and rich and nuanced than just doing good deeds or just doing, dishes at the retreat.
Yes.
It's richer than just seva.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see how the whole thing could be skewed to turn into the caste system. That, like, you know what, you should be comfortable with what you're doing. No matter what you're doing, you're a street sweeper, you're supposed to feel great about it, That's one of the complicated parts for me. But maybe there was a historical disconnect anyway from that whole situation.
I don't know if you were here. In the 4th chapter is one of the more problematic shlokas where Krishna says, I am the author of the fourfold caste according to guna and karma. Were you here when we did that one?
I missed that one.
Okay. The word for caste in Sanskrit is varna. The word varna also means color. Now, actually, the word caste also has that double meaning. That blue has kind of a translucent cast to it. You ever heard the word used that way?
Yeah.
So, does it have ancient historical racial elements to it? We know historically the people in the South are a darker Dravidian people. The people in the North are fairer skinned. There have been times when various groups of people have been dominant over others. I am not a great expert on Indian history, but what's important is Krishna does not say, I am the author of the fourfold caste according to Janma. Janma means birth. It does not say that. The Lord himself says, according to guna, qualities of mind, and karma, the actions that you do. So you may come, Swamiji used to say this, from a Brahmin family and may have the sacred thread. But if you're out there in the world making a buck and you don't study scripture and you don't pray and meditate, you can have all the pride about how, ancient your family is, but you're nothing but a merchant. Likewise, you take a saint like Nisargadatta Maharaj. His father was a domestic servant, and then was a poor farmer when he came to Mumbai, Bombay in those days. He ran a cigarette shop. And yet, one of the 20th century's greatest saints. So according to Gita, he would be a Brahmin. According to Guna and Karma, not Janma. But over centuries, it became about birth and it became about class. And yeah, you're a sweeper, be a good sweeper, and maybe you'll come back in your future life as something better, which is a complete misunderstanding.
Thank you for reviewing that.
No, and every scripture, be it Hindu or Muslim or Christian, has a historical and cultural context. So are there racist elements, classist elements in Hinduism? Yes. But all we have to do is look to the United States. And in the Christian culture, St. Paul wrote, "Wives, obey your husbands. Slaves, obey your masters," which was used as an authority and a rationalization to denigrate the role of women and to enslave populations. Scripture justifies it. We know better now. Is that useful?
Yeah.
So it's not just Hinduism, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah, that's clear. I
'Cause
just wasn't clear how the Bhagavad Gita fit into it, so.
Yeah. And, Shankara has a very famous hymn. God, I can't remember which one it is. But he's walking along the road and he meets a Chandala, a Dalit, an outcast, and tells him to get out of the way. And the Chandala says, "Where am I to go? I'm everywhere." And he realizes it's Lord Shiva, who then, knocks that little idea out of his head. Do you know what hymn that is?
The Manisha Panchakam.
Ah, yes. It's a fun one. But even Adi Shankara had that short-sightedness. We know more now. And there are family jewels, which are sanskaras that we do get from our parents. I mean, we speak so much now about dysfunctional families, the negative things, the kleshas that get passed down from generation to generation. But also, there are wonderful sanskaras that get passed down. For example, I, who had a career as a musician, so many world-class musicians come from musical families. Some kid will start playing the violin or the piano at 5, Or Marilyn Horne, one of my favorite opera singers, I think her first professional gig was at 12. Her whole family sang. And it takes that for many of us to get that skill set. So yes, if you come from a family where spirituality is something that's treasured, and you learn scripture as a kid, and learn to pray and to meditate, value these spiritual values, you've got a leg up. All right. Any more on your question?
No, thank you so much.
Anytime. And Swamiji used to say that the teacher is like a bell. You don't get anything out of it unless you bang it with your questions. And he used to say, I don't want any stupid questions. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. Okay, next verse.
तस्मादज्ञानसम्भूतं हृत्स्थं ज्ञानासीनात्मना चित्वैनं संशयं योग अमातिष्ठोत्तिष्ठ भारत. Therefore, with the sword of knowledge, cut asunder the doubt of the self, born of ignorance, residing in your heart, and take refuge in yoga. Arise, O Bharata.
So he sums it all up with the wonder sword of knowledge. Cut asunder the knots of the heart. We call them the Hridaya Grandhi. And the idea, the sword, cuts things in two, cuts the knot. What is the fundamental knot? Avidya, the non-apprehension of my essential nature. Even though it's the most obvious, the most present dimension of my being. When are you ever not you? But because of this strange phenomenon of spiritual ignorance, in my mind, I do not know it. And instead, I think I'm a person. I think I'm the body plus the personality. And then first comes Jiva Bhavana, I think I'm a person. Then Vishaya, phenomenal world separate from me that is inherently joy-giving or misery-producing. Happiness is out there. The misery is over there. And then Kartavya, literally obligatory action, but it means struggling. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if only, more. And the root of it all, the first idea of ignorance is I think I'm a person. Jiva Bhava, Ahankriti, Ahankara, Chidabhasa, Chitjaya. So we don't want to have Ahankara. We just want to find out what is Aham? All right. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari